Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is one of my authors' chats of the week, starting off bright and early. Well, not bright and early, but early in the week. It's a Monday for this particular live stream when I'm filming it, and we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between in just a moment. I'm going to keep my eye out so you can see if my co-host is ready to join, and then we'll get things rocking and rolling in just a short bit of time. But yeah, I'm super excited. I have started to prepare whenever I go to live events, and I have one coming up in a few weeks. I start preparing kind of at least almost like crib notes of any of the panels that I'm going on. And one of the ones I will be attending is about Fae mythology. So I'm really excited about that one. Hi! We're going to be doing an author's chat in just a moment. Keeping an eye out for my co-host so I can send the invite. And we'll see if we can get things going in just a moment. It'll be my first time talking with him, so hopefully it all goes smoothly. Sometimes we have hiccups, but that's part of the fun. Oh, I see it now. I had to scroll down a little further. Perfect. Okay, invite sent, and we'll get things going. But yeah, I'm preparing for Jordan Con, which is a decent-sized con in the Atlanta area, and my first time I'll be attending. Hello!
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can. How about... Good. Okay, perfect. This is great. I don't know if you've ever listened to any of my lives, but essentially it's pretty casual. If people in the comments pop up any kind of questions that are bookish related or thematically, related stuff, we'll answer them, and we'll just kind of keep it, again, conversational and chill. I'll let
Yeah.
you, since you're my co-host this week, introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Well, I am JP Rindfleisch the Ninth, and I am actually the Ninth. I'm a writer of things dark, strange, and queer. So I have a cozy queer fantasy, Mandrake Manor, which is about three friends who inherit a house and become the neighborhood witches. I also have Nerds, National Recently Deceased Services, the Leah Ackerman series, which is a dark paranormal academy, and an upcoming Kickstarter project for Mosswood Apothecary, which is another cozy fantasy.
I love that. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have quite a repertoire behind you. I absolutely,
Yeah.
that's great. And I also love the titles. Well, I think that's really fun, especially what got you into cozy fantasy, because that is one of those up and coming subgenres that is catching fire, essentially, in many ways. And so, what got you into wanting to write cozy?
Yeah. So I started writing. I would say it was Mandrake Manor was more of the cozier one, and that one was inspired a lot by Charmed. I just really loved the Charmed vibes, but I also was binging Schitt's Creek like nobody's business, and it just has this like cozy joy to it that I just wanted to bring to the space. And cozy fantasy was already rising. I'm like, obviously, this fits perfect. Why not?
I love that, and again, that title is just charming, Mandrake Manor, and
Mhm.
because I remember my first exposure to the concept of mandrakes was back in the day, and I know we're all not necessarily fans of the author, but the Harry Potter series, and it was like as a child one of those early exposures to a variety of mythos that weren't necessarily the super iconic, the dragon and the unicorn stuff, and she was able to incorporate some interesting stuff that way. So what when you're writing your we'll talk about Manor a little bit more. What kind of fun, charming little fantasy vibes did you tuck in your book? Because it's always kind of neat to see what people decided they wanted to write into their story and again make it you.
Yeah. So with Mandrake Manor, it started as a serial. So I was releasing chapters every week on a platform known as Kindle Vella, which is gone, RIP. Um, but at the time, I was releasing these chapters and I was naming them after plants. So I grew up on a greenhouse, basically. My grandparents owned a floral company, and so my backyard was like I don't know, like three greenhouses. So I was just around plants all the time. love plants. I kill plants, but everyone else in my family, great, loves plants. So I just wanted to add that like witchy vibe to it. So every chapter starts with a poem about a plant, which focuses on the lore, the magic, and the science behind it, because I'm also a biochem major. Um, and so I have the title of the chapter with the poem, and then that plant relates to like what happens in the chapter as well.
I feel like you could come up with a really fun accompaniment for your book where if you got a, I don't know if you're artistic or you get a sketch artist and come up with a cute little, some book, kind of almost like a coffee tale book where you have your little plants and then, you put your little note in the aside and it could be like an accompaniment of your
That'd
project
be
for
really
the
fun.
day.
I'm gonna write that down. Maybe I'll do that later.
Project for another day. I definitely come up with some random projects for people. So if you aren't already busy with your upcoming Kickstarter and everything else you're working on, but yeah, I actually have enjoyed running Kickstarters. I'm not nowhere near expert level as some people on here do amazing jobs. I'm still kind of learning the platform and trying to feel out what I like and how I like to structure. So I know I have a couple I'm going to be launching later on this year, but when are you launching yours?
So I had originally planned on launching it in March, but I wanted to get a physical sample copy of the like sprayed edges and all the pretty kind of basic version in my hands so I could get the photography for it. So I'm planning on launching it in May. The books are 70 miles away. I've been following them like a hawk. I know they're 70 miles away and they're still sitting there since like 4 days ago, and I'm just like, just get close. So I'm waiting for them to arrive before I give an official date, but I think it'll be in May.
Okay, that is neat, and that's still around the corner because I can tell you from personal experience, you'll blink, and whatever date you think you've given yourself enough buffer time, it's here. So hopefully that
Exactly.
well for you. And what kind of stuff are you going to be offering for your Kickstarter? Because as authors, just as widely with all the variety we do with our genres and our styles and who we are, Kickstarter is a fun platform because we all can kind of make it our own. So what are some of the things that you're interested in doing for your particular launch?
I conveniently have some samples here. I wanted to make a pretty book, so I wanted to put like as much art as possible. So I have the base model, like if we fund, it'll have like 3 or 4 illustrations, a fancy like chapter icon image, sprayed edges, like the fancy lettering, and then as we continue, if more people are interested in it, more illustrations. So these are the two that I'm going to show off. We've got these fancy art. So it's a book about alchemy. So this character has plant magic. So we've got art here, and then this one is it's not steamy, they're just makey outy. So yeah. So I'm really excited, hopefully to have more of these as well. So
That is, and I think being able to run Kickstarters to help not just like you said create the pretty book, which is really
hmm
kind of one of those things that for independent authors like I am, it's almost unfeasible to do that by yourself. But having some kind of
yeah.
launchpad system like Kickstarters are for authors, it allows us to do and be able to kind of fund some of these really creative projects and character art. Where again, we all want to support amazing artists and everything, but everything costs money. So to be able to
hmm
have that kind of backing
Very
behind,
true.
yes, I know. It's just a wonderful thing. So I hope that works out wonderfully for you, be it May or whenever you're ready to launch. So
hmm
actually, I
Yeah,
have.
yeah. My
Oh yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Tag, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm sort of approaching Kickstarter in the sense of like it it is especially towards the launch date. I would rather it be the quality of the book than trying to rush things out. And I think that there's more forgiving in the Kickstarter space. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait for the books to be in my hand so I can do actual pictures and actually like show it off instead of putting it on a pre-order and then like racing for the hoping the books shall arrive on time, but sometimes they don't. You're just like, yeah. So it's been a little bit more relaxed and I've been happy about that.
That's really good. Yes, and I think that's one of those things is when you're trying anything new, and I don't know how many Kickstarters you have run in the past, but as I mentioned a little bit ago, I've run a couple, and each time I kind of adjusted how I did it. And I know last year I had a lot of fun with it, but I was offering too many things and trying to go a
Hmm.
little overboard with all the extras. And so I know at least for the first one I'm going to be doing later on this year. Again, it may be late May when I launch it, early June when I do the actual Kickstarter, but I'm going to keep this one the first one a little more streamlined because the second one's going to be for the fancy special release with all the what I hope
Yeah.
will be the
Yeah.
beautiful book with the sprayed edges and the character art and all that. But it is nice to again pace yourself, plan ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I actually I have a mutual that got me into connection with Sasha Black, who has run some really like
Oh yeah.
highly successful sapphic books. And I had a conversation with her like, here's my plan for Kickstarter. And I had a real good heart to heart where she was like, don't do that. Stop doing that. You gotta, and I was just like, I needed to listen to this because I would have gone overboard. I would have paid for everything ahead of time. And she's like, stop it. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll listen.
Yes, and that is the thing is there you have to understand there is that risk. If you don't hit that threshold that you're asking for, then nobody gets anything. And if you put all your
Hmm.
money in ahead of time, that's a lot. So that's why it's nice to have those stretch goals and things. So it's like, hey, if we get above and beyond this, Margaret, we get other stuff. We want it
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And Sasha's a very, very nice person. I've been fortunate enough to meet her a couple of times. So that's amazing that she was helping you with your launch because it's always nice to have one of those kind of expert figures kind of be like a mentor and guide you through whatever it is. Because I'm assuming you're indie as well as it. Are you hybridized? Or are you
Hmm.
trad? Okay, and
Yeah, pretty much idea.
yeah, it's hard to learn everything because there's so many things we need to figure out as indie authors. So having a mentor or someone just to even help you, just guide you loosely as a friend or a fellow writer, that's just nice.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. I've always had this notion that writing is not a solitary practice, especially if you're an indie author. And I mean, yes, putting the words down can be a solitary practice, but everything else around it is not. And I think that you become more successful or at least more knowledgeable when you are around other authors and when you're able to actually like share information and sort of learn from each other's mistakes instead of just trying to do it on your own because you're not trying to invent the wheel. Other people have wheels. You're just trying to make yours prettier. So why not talk to them?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So actually, I'm curious. Have something I want to ask because you said you were when Kindle Vella was around, releasing
Mhm.
your first Mandrake's Manor, releasing that as a serialized version. And I know, unfortunately, Kindle Vella's not around, but there are other platforms. There's Patreon. There's depending on your genre. There's I think Royal Road and a number
Mhm.
of them out there for that kind of stuff. Is doing a serialized future book something you're still interested in, or how was your experience releasing on Bella?
So
Sorry.
I loved releasing on Bella.
Okay, good.
Um, I released Nerds, National Recently Deceased Services first. That was a co-written project. Then Mandrake Manor. Um, then Mandrake Manor really took off. Or no, Mousewood Apothecary was my third one, and that one really took off on Kindle Vella. And then that book, Tapas Entertainment, which is like a web comic and web novel website. They own Radish. If you've ever heard of Radish, they own them. They reached out because they wanted to take Mosswood Apothecary. I was like, well, it's doing really well over here, but what about this other ideas. So I've been writing this other project for them, which will be releasing next month. So that's I'm still doing the serials. I'm just moving over to a different platform.
Okay, that's what I was wondering because again, there are a number of them out there, and some are a little more book focused, and then some of them, like Patreon, just the world's your oyster. It just depends on what you're doing. I'm just curious because for someone trying to always figure out how to better market yourself, how do you market yourself on those platforms, or do people just stumble upon you?
Um, so Kindle Vella was Amazon didn't really market it very well. It was a well-known thing. I had to do a lot of like Facebook ads and other ads to gather that attention, which worked really well. I mean, especially for getting readers, it seemed to work even better than doing like Kindle, like ebooks. It worked significantly better. Conveniently with Tapas, they have like a whole team that will do a lot of the marketing stuff. It's a different sort of realm that I'm in, which was partly why I said like hybrid-ish because I have a contract with them. They'll be doing some of the more marketing stuff, which is really nice and convenient. So it's a new experience for me. Obviously, I'll be doing my own thing on social media, but I'm really curious to see how that goes.
No, I think again, if you have that benefit, and that's the one thing that interests me about the idea of hybridizing as an author. If anybody's listening and doesn't know what that means you have some works that are traditionally or self-published, and some works through some other kind of house or group that can potentially help you out with the marketing side and advertising side and alleviate some of the stress of finding everybody and all the people that you need as a team to create your beautiful book. So they can.
Yeah, yeah.
But so actually, another thing: when you release serials, do you come up with any book cover at the time, or is it just the title and the little blurb and let's go?
So with Kindle Vella, there was that like it was a circular image, and so a lot of people were making like a square image that went with it. There was a lot more leeway. People were like, I was doing goofy stuff on Canva with like a ghost. It was really adorable and funny. And it was a fun way of sort of figuring out like when an image changes, do you get more readers, and then it sort of helps you with the future project. With Mosswood Apothecary, I had gone like I think with Mibble art and I got like basically a book cover for it. Um, with the tapas thing, they're sort of taking care of all of that. I let them pick the name. I was like, you know what, you know your platform better than I do. And this will be like an exclusive project. So I was like, you know it better than I do. You know your audience better than I do. You come up with the name and I'll make a decision if I like it or not, I guess. But I was like, sure, this works. They'll do a cover too. So it's a totally weird and different experience.
Hey, we like those weird and different experiences.
Yeah,
And
yeah, 100%.
it's great to think outside the box because there are so many people for years and years and years that are told there is only one way to publish. There's only one way to write. There's only one way to be an author, and that's not true. So it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
refreshing that there are so many fun options out there that again aren't necessarily you have to go to the big five, you have to publish this way, and this is you do that or bust, and
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah, I actually it's partly why I like writing serials because serials really offer the place to put yourself out there a little bit sooner. Put out chapters that are a little less polished, but your readers understand it because you're giving them basically the desserts, each week for them to sort of take in, and it gives that proximity to the reader. But then when you're done with it, you can then compile it into the ebook part. So you're not losing out on the opportunity to turn it into a book as long as you know where you're posting it and you know the contracts and agreements you make there. But as long as you know all of those things, regardless of where you're posting it, you can then continue to reshape that story to reach other readers. And it's basically an addendum as opposed to just like, this is a serial you can do, this is an ebook you can do.
that's you see that's important to realize that you can take it and then repurpose it and move it to a whole new group of people who will find you. And I see comments saying same thing. Started with Vella and now moving that kind of
Hmm.
stuff over to Patreon. I recently started a Patreon. Of course, I don't know how to market for it, so that's the problem. I set it up, and it's kind of auto releasing
Yeah.
weekly chapters of a book that I've written, and I'll hopefully maybe publish towards the end of the year or the beginning of next year. But wanted to kind of test this idea out. But yeah, the market, I have to figure out how to market. This is my weak link.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my problem.
I
So
think,
that's my fault.
yeah, yeah. I think talking a lot about it on TikTok and then maybe doing some type of meta ad would help, but that would be my direction I would do with it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and also ads. I've never. It's just not. I
Oh,
try.
there,
I
yeah.
try. That's a whole. It's a whole nother animal, and it's so many
Yeah,
things.
I don't do them anymore.
So, of all your books that you have so far, and potential projects coming down the line, which one would you recommend for someone being a first time person to read your work? Is there one that you would say, okay, this is a quintessential one, or this is a good place to start? Or are you like me, where it's like, just depends on what you're interested in, because I write
Yeah,
a variety of subgenres.
yeah. I think if you want right now, if you want the most genuine my voice version, because the Nerds is co-written, the Leah Ackerman series is co-written, but Mandrake Manor is all me, and it has like a lot of queer, goofy banter in it. Um, and I think that that one's like the most readily available for anyone. Uh, when Mosswood comes out, it's going to be a hard contender between the two because I love both of them, and that, trying to pick between the two would be tough.
I can get that. And here again, just my mind goes every time you say Mandrake Manor. I see like one of these kind of cutesy um, drawings of a little mandrake, and as for like stickers or whatever that you can hand out and be like,
Hmm.
"Here's my little mandrake." They're so cute. Just don't hear them cry. I love that.
Just don't hear them scream. It's fine.
Yeah, just try not to do that. I just have a question that popping up. Is there an audiobook plan? So, do you have any of your works in the audiobook format right now, or are you trying to convert any of them?
So, Mandrake Manor, I got Kurt Graves to do the audiobook. He's done 250 audiobooks, which I didn't know at the time, including TJ Klune stuff, which I didn't know at the time. And that I wouldn't have asked him had I known that because I would have been like, oh, that's somebody I can't reach out to. He's an amazing person, very approachable. With Mosswood Apothecary, I'm sort of taking the route of I'm doing the Kickstarter release for the Pretty Book. I was thinking about doing an audiobook and got talked down off the ledge not to do that one. Um, and so I'm looking at the route of maybe if we get enough attention towards the ebook and the paperback that some other someone might pick it up for audio basically. Because there's a lot of interest in queer stories, especially being converted into audiobooks by a lot of different groups. So I think that maybe it'll get converted into an audiobook, but I do want to try that route first.
Hey, no, that's not a bad thing. Is I don't necessarily feel pressured that you have to have your book in all the formats. Audiobooks are very they again going back to it's expensive. I understand. So
Hmm.
sometimes like you have to like figure out where is the best places to put your funds in order to help build your business. And there are, as you said, there's a lot of opportunities out there where if you get enough buzz, people will come out and reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want to see if we want to work a deal and produce it on your platform." And those are always nice. So they do exist. And if that doesn't happen,
Hmm.
you can still run a Kickstarter or still do something to help fund an audiobook at a later date. It doesn't have to be launched all at the same time, which again, people don't necessarily realize. It's
Exactly.
nice. It is nice, but you don't have to do it that way. And
Yeah, yeah.
I see a note saying, okay, yeah, talking about Mandrake Manor, adding it to the TBR. So there you go. Have a future
Thank
reader.
you.
I always love that. I absolutely love that. And
Perfect.
audiobooks are a great, but the joy of reading in any form is fantastic. Now, with your multiple projects, because you're talking about a launch of a new serial coming up, and you have a Kickstarter. And so, how many projects are you working on at one time? Because I work on a bunch. It's sad. I don't necessarily recommend doing what I do, but I always have to ask.
Oh, what a question. I'm like, how many do I have right now? At the moment, uh, actively for the Tapas project, I'm doing 2 chapters a week where I'm outlining, drafting, and editing those chapters, and they're ready to go by the end of the week. I do have like an outline for it, but I basically try to break the outline every time because I'm just like, the story's going to tell itself, and I like figuring it out that way. Um, on top of that, I have another project that's sort of more slow moving with another co-writer. This one I haven't published with before, but we've been longtime friends, so we're just slowly going along. Um, what else am I working on? I have like a couple that are just sort of in the back burner. Probably like two or three that are waiting. Have a couple things built on them, but I've had to say wait.
Yes, yeah. There's that whole thing of the shiny new project and the shiny new idea. You do have to finish something at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
make
Exactly.
make those notes. Keep your again the little pinpoints of notes, your idea. Make sure you have that somewhere where you can pull it out when you're ready. But because you don't want to forget it either. But finish one
Mm-hmm.
or two or a few projects at a time before dedicating to another like four or
How
five.
many do you have?
um, in the works. Oh my. There, I have a lot that are on various stages because I work in this weird roundabout cycle where I'll write a new project in the morning and edit a totally different one, and in the afternoon or market or prep. So I have okay, I have the book that I'm launching through my Kickstarter again that late May, early June, and that will be the fifth book of my young adult Portal fantasy series, the Jed Chronicles. I'm about to do the cover reveal later on this week for that one, and
Ooh.
writing the sixth book of that series. And in the interim, I also have the first book of a Greek myth retelling going through my Patreon, and have another book on submission because again the curiosity of hybridizing. So I do have one kind of on submission in a couple places, and then I'm going to try to do a special special edition release of my Dark Viking fantasy series. Now that it's completed, I want to bundle them in big omnibuses with all the cool
Mm-hmm.
stuff in together.
Fancy. Yeah, that's fun. That's a lot.
You know, and audiobooks coming out and for all the series I have out right now. So lots of juggling. It's my life,
It'll be
but I will
fine.
also.
Don't panic. It's fine.
I am fortunate at this moment in time, knock on wood, who knows what the tomorrow will bring. I am a full-time author and artist, so I'm able to dedicate a lot of time to various projects, which not everybody has that capability. So never judge against, don't judge yourself against another author. You never know
Hmm.
what other people are doing. Now, are you a
Yeah.
full-time author? Do you have other jobs, or how do you kind of balance your writing life?
Well, I do have a full-time job. Yeah, yeah, full-time job, and then I do this as well. So I'm I do a lot during the day. It's fun.
Hey, I was gonna say kudos because it does sound like you have written a lot of books, and you are producing a lot of works, and there are a whole bunch of people who are so nervous about how I'm going to find time to write a book because they have a day job. They may have kids or dogs or whatever that constantly kind of pulls them here and there. And the truth is, you got to just sit down, dedicate a few minutes. It doesn't even have to be a lot, just a little bit to write a paragraph, a page, whatever it is, in increments can work. But for you, since you
Yeah.
have a few series that are with other authors, you're co-authoring, how do you like that experience? Because for me, I'm a controlling person in all facets of my business. I don't know if I would be a good co-author, but how do you like that experience?
It's fun. So really the co-authoring started. in 2020 in January before the world ended. And I went to a haunted house with 14 other uh, indie authors. We took a train from LA to San Francisco, and then we stayed in a haunted mansion for a weekend. And we paired up and wrote short stories. And we were paired up by the leads of the sort of event. And I made my co-writer stay in the attic with me, and it was a creepy attic, and there were like child handprints all over windows. Like I swear they appeared in the middle of the night. They were not there the day before.
Oh my.
Um, there was a creepy basement that I was the only one that went into. Everyone else was like, absolutely not. Um, but ultimately, I got the experience of writing a short story with somebody. And when I did that, I was the one who went in afterwards. He first drafted, and then I came in. And at the first time or first pass through, I really put a lot of my voice in there and took away a lot of his voice.
Mm,
And it wasn't until we had that conversation and I started to realize that like there's a art to it. You have to figure out what the balance is. What's the shared voice? What are the things that you can add in if you are the person coming in the back end, or if you are the first writer? What are the things that you're willing to let go? And ultimately, like we ended up spending that weekend together. Then we spent a couple of hours and planned out our series that we wrote. And we're now he's drafting the sixth book, and that'll be the last book of the main series. Um, and it's been a really fun experience. Basically, it taught me to be willing to throw away words, regardless of whose words they are. They could be mine, which means that if I get really, really stuck on a chapter, I pause, I say, "What's wrong with the chapter? XYZ," and I'm like, "Okay, get it out of here. Let's go to the next thing." And I'm fine with just killing those words or getting rid of those words. And so that's what it taught me was just that sort of sensibility of like
mhm.
the words can go if they need to. It doesn't matter who wrote them as long as the story is good.
And I think that is an important thing for writers, not necessarily just the ones who co-author books or projects, but to be able to say goodbye to some of your words. It may be,
Hmm.
it could be a scene, it could be chapters, it could be, but being willing to make those adjustments for the betterment of your story, because that's something you have to learn. That's hard to do for a first time author. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
I struggle
definitely.
with it, and hearing those critiques and realizing you may have to dramatically change something in order for the story to be the best it can be. So
Yeah.
that is a really neat experience, though, being able to kind of work alongside someone else and use both your creativity to come up with something new and fresh. Are you going to
Yeah.
continue?
I
Oh, sorry, go.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, one of the big mentalities that I like having is the improv mentality of the yes and. So it's never to me, it's never absolutely not. We can't go this direction. It's if you want to go this direction, how can I improve it? How can I make it a step up? And so like that's really fun in the world building process or in the process of like when he writes it or when I'm going through edits and we're just like, well, what if? And we're both just like, yeah, but what if we add a little more to it? And so like there is a stopping point, of course, but it's that fun conversation of instead of saying absolutely not to someone's idea. It's how do we just keep improving it or make it like the best version of that?
Are you in relatively constant contact with each other, or do you, let one of whichever one who's doing the first part versus the second part write as much as they can and then switch? Like how do you make sure you're both kind of in agreement of your projects and where they're going?
Um, so my co-author with the Leah Ackerman series, we text each other like nearly every day. We meet up every week too, just to sort of talk about like how we're doing, and especially with the story. Um, I'm pretty much in constant contact with all of my co-authors because like I also view them as friends. So like I generally we just normally talk about random stuff anyway, and we'll send each other like silly videos like this is what our character would do over in this situation, and it's just like a goofy TikTok. But yeah, that's pretty much always in contact.
I love that. And it just goes to show, I can't say it enough. The writing community is so much fun. The book community is so fantastic. And it is amazing how many people you meet and develop these real friendships over time. And it is nice. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was it that I love asking this question because everybody has a different answer, but what was it that made you decide I'm going to finally sit down and write a book? Because not everybody makes that step. They come up with ideas and never do it. So what was it that sparked it for you?
So this is my why I write story. Um, so I in college I took a creative writing class. It was okay. The teacher was great. The or professor was great, but the classmates were a lot more literary. And so when we would have our roundtable discussions, it was a little bit too much, or it was a conversation that didn't really help encourage like the genre voice that I wanted to go towards, more of the like how can we make this more literary. Didn't love that. I ended up graduating with a degree in biochemistry. I basically went into like manufacturing and worked in labs. Read a lot, because fun fact, when you work 12-hour shifts overnight, you figure out when you can do your samples so that you have 3 hours to read. So I read The Wheel of Time, which was fantastic. I started to listen to a ton of podcasts, writing podcasts, and there was sort of like this moment as I was in the manufacturing world, and I'm still kind of there, but there was this like decision moment I needed to make where I had to take a supervisory skills course, because of, corporate ladder climbing it, blah blah blah. And there was a time where we had to write down all the things we didn't have time for. And I wrote down that I didn't have time to write and I didn't have time to do art, because I do some art. I don't do it as much, but um, I said, I didn't have time for these, add the list. Other people said they didn't have time to do laundry or, take their kid to soccer or something like that. We had to go up to the front of the class and we had to say, instead of I don't have time to, we had to say I don't want to. So I had to say I don't want to write, which was the most painful thing I had to say. And after that, I was like, absolutely not. I will find time to write. I will make myself write. Um, and that was pretty much like the moment where I was like, I'm going to write out of spite because I don't want to be the person that says I don't want to write.
That's good. Actually, that is a good challenge for you for anybody, for uh, people who are struggling with time management and being able to pursue whatever your passion is. So, no, I'm glad. I'm glad that that did it for you and has made you be able to take that step forward. And now you have a whole repertoire, a whole collection
Yeah,
of books, and they keep on coming.
take
So
that past me.
good. And absolutely. And I'm also reading The Wheel of Time. I'm only I've read the first six, so still early on. Still early on in all the rest.
Yeah, you're in the slow motion area. Things pick up again, but you're kind of in the slow section.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So we will see how it goes. But it is such a fascinating thing, and finding books that you enjoy that inspire you. What would be a book? Do you have a book, I should say, that inspired your style of writing?
I love TJ Klune stuff, because it'll hit on heavier topics. It is cozy and queer, but it's not spicy. And so it has the same vibe that I go towards because, well, spicy has its place and all of that. I just like writing sort of that like cozy, goofy nonsense. Um, I do have some projects that are a little bit more on the spicier side that might be coming out in the future, but that's sort of the realm that I like to be in, is just sort of this fun, goofy, unfiltered area. Um, I also really like, and this one's horror, but it is Ryan LaSala's The Honeys. It's basically like Mean Girls go to horror summer camp with bees. It's great, and it's spooky, but it definitely has a vibe that I really appreciate.
I love that. And it is. I was going to say, cozy is just, again, going back to the cozy is charming thing. It is simply charming as a category. And I don't know if you have started to do any events as an author, but there was an online based cozy con
Hmm.
last year, and I don't remember what it was called because I don't write cozy. I'm
HearthCon.
maybe it was an online one where it
Hmm.
didn't matter where you were, you logged in, you did your live stream panels and everything. And I thought that was really neat for anybody who's not able to travel, that there are those kind of online cons available for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So there was an event I was a part of called HearthCon, which was for cozy fantasy readers, and it was an online event. I was on a panel. We were talking about like publishing because I was mostly talking about Kindle Vella, which I think it was like just about to end. So it was kind of like a poorly timed event. But yeah, that was a really fun experience, and I really think that more of those sort of online genre niche things, if they don't exist, they should.
oh yes, because there are so many people who are fascinated or are passionate, and you have the fandoms developing again, cozy fantasy, lit RPG, all these kind of big up and coming subgenres that are cropping up there, and the fans will find you.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you stream it, they will find no, but yeah, they will find you. Do you try to do any face-to-face events for your books, like
Yeah,
some?
yeah. So I mostly do stuff around my area. So I've gone up to I'm in like the Midwest. It's not really a secret. I'm in Rockford, Illinois. So I'm in that like Chicago, Midwestern area. I've done events up in Milwaukee, a lot of local events as well. It's really fun. I really love talking to people, and just giving them the pitch and seeing if they're interested.
I love that. Yeah, now it's going to these kind of face-to-face events is something I'm trying to do more of as time allows. The
Hmm.
thankful time, limited as well, but it is nice, and it's a different kind of animal because writing does feel so solitary. And if you're a person like me and I am an extrovert, it's nice to be able to go out and say, "Oh yes, we are real people."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are real readers. You do exist. We can go and talk and hang out in the real world and engage. But that's always fun. But actually, this
Yeah.
brings up the hour's going to start picking up speed because this is always that time of the hour that happens. Let me make sure I ask a couple of the questions that I always try to inquire about, because if this app is nice, and most of the time it is, there've been a couple glitches, I'll try to repurpose this video onto my YouTube channel and put all your contact information down below. So if anybody, wants to come back and refer to anything, or just stumble upon you and find you and you become your super fan in the future, that will be there. But question number one, where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk? Clearly you're here, but do you have a website, newsletter, other socials, those kind of things?
Yeah, so sorry that it's my last name, but shop.jprindfleisch.com will get you to my website. Otherwise, you can always go to the link tree. I'm on YouTube, so if you're over there, you can just basically go with this name and look for me there. And I try to keep it so that you can find me, or at least find the link tree so that you can find all my links there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's always nice to be able to do that, because that one-stop shop for people. So, because everybody has a different place they like to hang out with, and
Yep.
I say it all the time. I have FOMO, so I'm on a lot of places. I am, and it's like you listing them, and you're just like, or you could just go here, just check
Yep.
out
Yep.
click that link. It's all there for you. But no, that's always. And I'm assuming on there is the. Do you have a link up for tapas yet for your upcoming cereal? Do you have a way to send people over?
So not yet. I think that I haven't had a pre-launch link. I've never really seen one over there. So I'll obviously put it on there when it shows up, but and I'll post about it so people will see it if they follow me.
Oh, perfect. One of the other important questions is, where can people get your books? Because we mentioned that well, some people are exclusive on Zon, others are wide, some sell direct. So how do you distribute your books? Where can people find them?
Yeah, so ebooks for Mandrake Manor, the Leah Ackerman series, and Nerds are exclusive on Amazon, so through Kindle and KU. But print, I do have a bookshop on TikTok. so JP Rindfleisch Bookshop. I also have my own website. It's available wide in print everywhere. Mosswood Apothecary is also going on to Tapa, so it won't be exclusive to Kindle. So it will be available wide, including on my website for digital, and then obviously for everything physical, it'll be available widely.
Very nice. Yeah, it's always interesting because I think it's important for authors to play around to figure out where they fit best because depending on genre and subgenre, you're in different platforms, some do better than others, so it is important for everybody to kind of find what works. Because just again,
Hmm.
one thing may work for one person doesn't mean necessarily works for you. And I've kind of started moving and trying to distribute some of my books more and more wide. So right now, ebooks and a lot of my audiobooks are now wide, and I haven't made the step for physical beyond the fact that I have my own bookshop, just
Hmm.
because I keep going back and forth. Should I do Ingram Spark? Should I do something? I have no idea. I take any suggestions that people have. If you like using, whoever you use, I always take suggestions. But
Yeah,
yes,
I go through Ingram. Do I love it? No. But do I use it? Yes.
it is like the biggest player out there right now for indie. There are others coming
Yeah.
up trying to be competitive, but they're not that level yet. Yeah.
I will say though, if you're a book vault for like getting stuff direct to you or even to readers buying direct, it's pretty fast in comparison to everything else. I'd say it's the fastest one.
Oh, good to know because
That
they're
is like a major.
yeah, and they're the ones who I was hoping to do my special releases through because they also have a
Yeah.
lot of that kind of. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping.
The sprayed edges take a while, but
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you're asking for again the deluxe version or the special or
yeah.
limited or whatever. It's not the day to day stuff, but that's good to know
Right.
because I have been following them for a while, and again, there are so many platforms out there. So
Yes, they are.
here's a good question I have not asked in a while. What is one thing that you wish you knew at the beginning of your writing journey that would benefit someone who's beginning theirs today, if that makes sense? Sure.
Yeah. So, oh, but what didn't I know at the beginning? I mean, I sort of was learning this, but it's the big like writing not a solitary practice.
Mhm.
Find community and be willing to sort of join local groups or make your own. Like, you don't need permission from anybody. We're all just figuring stuff out, right? So, like, for example, I started a local writers group because a couple years ago, I went to a writer event. I realized that we have a guild in our area, but the guild didn't have a way for like members to talk to each other. There was no Discord, there was no Slack, there was a meeting that they had on Zoom, which wasn't even in person, where one person would talk the whole time. No one would even like ask questions. They just had like this person do a presentation and then it sort of just ended. And I'm like, how are you having people talk to each other? I asked them. They didn't really pursue it. They weren't interested in it, even after talking to the director of membership. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna make my own thing. And we have like 80 members that are local, and we have maybe like 10 to 15 people that show up every 2 to 3 weeks at restaurants near like 6 o'clock or whatever. We just hang out. We're just writers that hang out. We chat. If people have questions, they know who to talk to because we're all just sort of there. Writers of different levels. No one feels like they have to be a published author to be there. Um, so, had I thought that I needed permission to do that, I don't know if I would have made it. But I was just like, no one else is doing this and we needed it. And we did.
Hey, and clearly it's working as you said 80 members and there is people who want and need that sense of community because yes, more eyes on a project helps make the project better. Different people's point of views, different people's experiences all can help benefit you. And then again, you have to decide how many personal opinions you're going to take and accept versus say,
Yeah.
okay, no, I'm done. I'm good now. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But
Very true.
but that is pretty fun. Oh, I have another actually. So for all your characters, I'm not going to ask who your favorite is, because that's kind of mean, but which character does kind of connect with you or resonate with you the most at this point in time of the characters you've written? Because that can change book by book. And
Okay, so I am gonna answer both my favorite and the one I resonate with, because they're both from Mandrake Manor, which is just funny because like out of all of it, I think that this one makes the most sense. But my favorite is Frankie. Frankie is sort of like the more outgoing person. They have a ton of like banter that they do with the other characters, and they also do like pop culture references. It's a really fun character to write because they're just so sassy, and it is very entertaining to like sit in that character personality and just like make silly Golden Girls jokes or just something that's like pop culture relevant. Um, the one that I relevate or like have the most relevance with, I would suppose, is August, who is another character in that. Both of these are main POVs. There are three main POVs in Mandrake Manor, and August is a non-binary character who just kind of wants to be left alone, wants to write at the cafe and sort of hide in the corner and eat cozy, have cozy croissants and whatnot. And sometimes I just feel like that, just want to be a blob and hide in the corner.
sometimes it's nice to have your own space.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't always have to be in front of everybody all the time. So I totally get that. Plus, who doesn't want like the nice, warm, freshly baked croissants?
Yes. As long as they don't come alive, which may or may not happen in Mandrake Manor.
Okay, here's okay. So one of my author friends writes cozy. He writes pirate fantasy, and we're having this talk about cozy fantasy in general and how so many books do have this connection, or parallels where you have the fantasy, the characters, and some kind of warm, hot, steaming brew, be it coffee, be it
Yeah.
tea. What how necessary do you think that kind of connection is for that kind of quintessential idea of what cozy fantasy is? Or can you write cozies that have nothing to do with, tea shops and coffee baristas and
Yeah. Honestly, yes. So with Mandrake Manor, my one of my main POVs, they end up having a relationship with someone who owns a cafe, who's not a main POV, but it just sort of was my nod to cozy fantasy of sort of having that around. And also like I love talking about food, and it always feels like a nice cozy thing to it. But Mosswood Apothecary, which is like more of a love letter to Studio Ghibli and like Full Metal Alchemist. And so it that one there isn't really focus on like teas or on anything like that. There's a alchemist who ventures to a small town, sort of investigating why magic is sort of funky here. It has that like adventuring vibe, so it's really on the edge of cozy fantasy. Because there's still like there are occasional high stakes, but I still call it cozy fantasy because they have comfy vibes. There is a picnic scene, which is just an enjoyable chapter where nothing major happens. They're just enjoying food, and I think you see that more in cozy fantasy of just like those slice of life moments. But I definitely don't think that you have to have like the tea shop or the coffee shop in cozy fantasy.
well, not to give you other projects to do, but there are a lot of people. I've had fun doing something like this for one of my book series, but coming up like little recipe cards that when people get
Hmm.
signed copies, they get that. So if you got the picnic, you could have like one of the sandwiches or whatever you brought for the picnic, or I don't know. Those are kind of just fun little add-ons when people get like a signed copy.
Yeah, yeah. I think Herman. I'm gonna butcher the last name, but he's the author of like The Bartender Between Worlds, and he recently did a Kickstarter as well. But he does little drink cocktail recipes,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
has like a little side book along with that, and that's really yeah, that's really fun.
It is, and yes, that's a great example. I did see the fact that Kickstarter recently, some of his posts, but yeah, that again, that cozy cocktails, bartender
Hmm.
between.
Hmm. Exactly.
They just go hand in hand. They really do. So we're rounding the end of the hour, and this is that perfect time where, for anybody who's listening, but as well as you, is there any topic that you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to cover, or any questions that you wanted to ask that you haven't had a chance to ask yet? I mean, this is that perfect time to do any of the above, or announcements. Again, like you have your Kickstarter coming up, and so any announcements.
Well, I want to know more about your Kickstarter. What's sort of this project you've got going on?
Well, so okay. So I have tentatively two this year. And like mentioned briefly earlier, the first one, the one that again aiming towards the latter part of May, June, just depending on when I have all my ducks in a row, and there are a lot of ducks to like get together for these projects. But that will be for the fifth book of my young adult portal fantasy. So it's a family-friendly clean fantasy, but it's set in a magical multiverse with lots of quests and adventures and pretty much everything you want in a quintessential fantasy is going to find its way in there. It was also my love letter to 90s growing up as a child. So I have every loose references from the Jackie Chan adventures, Yu-Gi-Oh, Stargate SG-1, Dragonheart, all Honey,
I love it.
all the fun stuff gets to kind of come back, and were sources of my inspiration for the series. But this particular book I'm really going to enjoy because as a person who loves dragons, and I've always loved dragons, I'm one of the worlds that the characters actually get a deep dive in for this particular book is the world of Dragonkin. So that one's going to be a lot of fun for me. But that one will be just a basic launch of the book, paperback, hardcover, ebook, and we'll go from there depending on tiers and stretch goals and maybe have some character art and all that. So that one's going to be more my simplified Kickstarter. And then towards the end of the year, I'm going to do that special edition Kickstarter for my retelling of Nordic myth series, The Guardian Speaker. There are 16 novellas. They're going to be compiled into two big omnibuses, so 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. And in that, I've been working with a variety of artists. So I have I think 4 different artists I'm working with to do new special edition like dust covers and interior art and character art and scene art. And so it's going to be just some really pretty special editions of these collections that for my Viking fantasy series. So I'm super excited about that one, but that one's the one that's taking a lot of time and energy because I've never done special editions before. So I'm learning, to be the first time for me working with places like Book Vault. And so it's learning all these new platforms, making sure I'm not missing anything. So a lot is set up for that one.
Yeah, there is. It really is.
If you have any tips, tricks, let me know. I always
Yeah.
take advice because it's again with like
Yeah.
everything, it's learning a whole new thing. You think you know, but you may not know.
No. Yeah, and if you have any questions, obviously reach out to me on that. Yeah, I'm happy to answer them. So,
Well, thank you. Like, I'm hoping, having done a few, just again these kind of more basic Kickstarters, I'm thinking it's just adding on new layers and levels, and that's why I've been prepping for this one for a little while, making sure I have enough of it done for the launch, and then have some other potential really cool stretch goals to again bolster people, but we shall see. I want to get better at this platform, and like any platform, you build a following, and so it's exciting. We'll see. But
yeah, excellent.
yeah, and I'll just make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me for this past hour. It's been lovely getting to know you and hear about all your projects, all your books. And I love the creativity that you have and the ability to work with other authors with your co-writing, as well as come up with your own projects and play around with serialization, which is it's a different animal, but it is a lot of fun for people who are able to release in that method. So just applauding you for everything you've done, because this is a second full-time job for you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's fine.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is, like, if it doesn't bring you joy, why are you doing it? And clearly it's bringing you
Exactly.
joy because you're finding time to do a lot of stuff. And you said you kind of started your, when did you start your writing career? Was it right before 2020 or was it a little earlier than that?
Somewhere around like 2017 to
Okay,
2018.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's still a lot in a relatively short time. So kudos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This is really fun. I really appreciate you doing this for authors and sort of letting me test out a TikTok live because I go live on other places, but I've never done it here. So this is a really fun experience.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, I'm glad you got to join me for this one, and I have fun with them. And if you ever want to do another one, let me know. You know, maybe after your Kickstarter or during your Kickstarter, if you wanted to help kind of promote your books, I do that with some other author friends because sometimes that's good ways to build the buzz when you're running campaigns.
Yeah.
But yeah, just let me know, and I schedule them in advance. I
Yep.
plan. I am a planner, but outside of that, I would love to be able to talk to you with you again in the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
And for everybody who's been joining in, thank you. And I will let you go for the evening because it is time for me to go take care of my dogs. If you can't hear them pacing outside the door, yeah, it's that time. It's that 8 o'clock hour. Okay. Well, lovely to meet you.
Hmm.
And until next time, bye.
Yeah. Bye.